What is this great conversation you're about to hear? Hello, everyone. This is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page. I am an online event planner that supports artists' work from all over the world. They create the product. I help plan and execute a memorable event for their fans, family members, and friends. What do the Levelers in Keene have in common? They all hail from the great country of England, more particularly Sussex. But did you know there is a very talented band that's been dazzling our ears with indie pop for many years? That's right, they are known as the Popguns. You may be familiar with beautiful tunes such as Landslide, The Outsider, and Second Time Around. In this conversation, we're going to explore some questions such as how did music play a role in their childhood? What is their approach to making music? How and when did the Popguns form? Why do they enjoy performing concerts? What is their brand new EP, POPISM, all about? So grab a cup, pour yourself a good drink, sit back and enjoy my conversation with the super talented Wendy and Simon Pickles from the band The Popguns. They really have developed a shimmery and jingle jangle sound that will forever infect us in the most positive way. Yes. Bringing the music out already. October 4th, Wednesday. Hello, everyone. This is W, aka William, host of the High Art on the Edge page. Thank you for tuning in for another surprise event. I believe this is number 12, starting in June. And here today, we have the legendary two people from the Popguns, Simon and Wendy Pickles, are joining us for this very special event as we are going to listen to their brand new EP, Popism, and have a conversation. So this is how it's going to work, just for all of you. First thing I want you to do is in the comment box, I want you, people are already coming in. This is great. Let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be step number one. Step number two, if you have any questions for Simon and Wendy, feel free to put them in the comment box. We will field those as we go along. Step number three, during the album listening party or the EP listening party, I will give you all the details on how that's going to run. So no need to worry. So get yourself a good drink. Come up to this conversation and enjoy Pop Guns with Simon Wendy. Let's bring them in. Hello, Simon Wendy.
Hello, William.
Hello. Hello, Mum.
You two sounding great. You look great. How are you doing? I have to ask you this first question. Now that Popism is out into the world, it's been hatched. How are you feeling about it?
Great.
Yeah. Super positive. Awesome.
We're going to definitely
have it released. It took so long to release it.
The songs have been
yeah, people are listening. It's great.
Yeah. We are
looking forward to playing them next weekend on tour. Yeah.
Yes, and we will talk about that as well. So much to get through in our 45-minute, 60-minute conversation. So appreciative that you're here. Can you tell us where you two are tuning in from?
We are in Seaford, or Seaford, as some call it, in East Sussex.
And tell us about that area. What's it known for?
Well, most famously, the Cuckmere Haven, which is a little beach at the bottom of a winding, beautiful Cuckmere River. And it's surrounded by sheep, cows, birds.
It's in the top 10 views in Britain in Sunday Times.
It is.
And what's the population, roughly?
20,000.
Okay. And how long have you two been living there for?
A year.
Just a year.
Where were you before?
In Brighton. Well, Hove.
Actually.
Okay. Yeah, I have to get over there and visit a lot of people, and I've interviewed so many people from your parts, and I just, I being over there and immersing yourself in that culture and experience is far better than actually learning it. So as far as your music goes and Popism, this brand new release, there was a video that you put out for it. Is that correct?
The new one, yeah.
Yeah. And what was that video?
Caesar.
Caesar. Can you tell us a little about that?
What, the video itself?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Well, actually, we sent something out on Facebook and said we want to make a video. Does anyone out there make one? And actually, Jared was fresh over from New York, answered our call. A guy called Jared, and we went into the local rehearsal studio. Booked a big room there. He took some footage. We got a stage there, and yeah, it was amazing. He did it at a very good price, and we were his invoice number one.
Together, this is an album listening party, and let's get started. You don't need to do anything except for just hear.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty London. Red Cocoon. Turn it up.
This is what you gave me.
Okay. Yoo-hoo! That was fun. Oh, Brendan, thank you. You nailed it, in and out with nothing wasted. So good. Oh, thank you so much for that 4-track EP, Popism. How'd that sound to you?
It sounds like the greatest record ever made.
I like that T-shirt. That's a great T-shirt. Let's talk about this album. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. My name is William, host of the High Art on the Edge. I'm here with Simon Wendy Pickles from the Popguns. We just had an album EP listening party with the POPISM 4-track. So you can grab this on Spotify, Bandcamp. It is great. Mark says hello from Denmark. Can't tell how happy it makes me to listen to Popguns. The new stuff is cracking. Cracking is absolutely right. So what were these songs inspired by? These new ones?
We've got the Echo. William?
Yeah?
You changed something to remove the Echo earlier. You're not hearing us echo. We're hearing us echo.
All right. Now.
You remember when you played the tracks, you turned something on or off?
Yeah, I did that.
If you change it back to what it was.
Is it echoing? I don't hear. Are you echoing now?
Hello. Yes. Oh.
Okay, we'll just. What was the question? What are the tracks about?
Yeah. What inspired these songs?
Yeah. I mean, songs take a long time to write sometimes. So Dirty London, that was one. It's actually inspired by when I was working in London for HMRC and walked to work every day, across St James's Park. And you pass the statue of Clive of India. And then I was going into office working with like a few Indian IT workers, and I was wondering, well, what's that like for them? And you walk up Whitehall, and you're sort of confronted by the memory of empire and power. It's like, wow, this is where this city came from. Just don't forget it. And it's kind of that's sort of the thought of anybody, whether they come from Liverpool to work in London or Brighton or India or South Africa or Australia, kind of gets confronted with that history, and which is obviously not 100% a positive history, but it's interesting.
So I studied at the University of London in 1994, and then I went back in 2007. I couldn't believe how much London had changed just in that short time period, in terms of just buildings and businesses and so on and so forth. When was the last time you were actually in London?
Oh, probably a couple of months ago. But this was actually 2012, the last time I worked there for any time. Yeah. So that's how long it takes to write a Popguns song. You got to get every word right, you see.
And as far as this Red Cocoon track, give us a little backstory on that.
You're making me blush on that one. It's kind of about a mildly debauched weekend at a music festival and the working week looming ahead at the end of it. But, yeah.
Kind of getting out of your system.
Yeah. And, it's just about the feeling of little moments and the little things that happen there, and like what's the chorus at the end?
It's been so wonderful to have you.
Yeah, it's like Monday arrives
and the week stretches out.
The week stretches out ahead.
I know I'll manage fine without you.
Yeah. Memories of the festival.
With the arrangements of these songs, and just kind of if you want to give us a little bit of your creative process, I'd love to know more about how you go about when the seeds are planted what kind of happens next?
Yeah, it's quite a long process from the song starting being written to actually what it ends up like on the record. And it may change a great deal and it may change not that much. So almost always I just play around on the acoustic guitar, find a tune I like, maybe a line comes into your head. I always think that any great song has a key line that you remember, lyric and melody, and then spend about the next 2 years trying to get every other line right in the song. And then I do a demo of it to the band and I think, yeah, that's a great demo. I've arranged that song perfectly. And then the rest of the band say, no, we want to change it completely. And all my great guitar parts get ditched. And
yeah, sure. So Simon,
so someone was saying on the feed earlier, what a great riff at the start of Dirty London. I had an even better riff than that. But Greg came up with that one.
I'm sure you have a whole library of riffs just ready to go. So, Simon, give us a little bit of your background and how music came about for you. And was that inspired by maybe an aunt, and uncle, a mom, dad? When did music start to take form and shape in your life?
I think, I grew up in the 1970s in suburban England, about 30, 40 miles from London. And we didn't have a lot of records in the house. In those days, we had a few records, which are the ones you'd play, including my first record I can remember having listening to is
yes,
the classic Jungle Book, of which I bought again on vinyl a few years ago.
Wait, you mean this one?
Yeah. And so that's probably my first memory of listening to music at home. And you had to have the record to listen to the songs then. And it had some of the soundtrack on it as well. So you listen to the story a bit. And then other records we had at home, this is what first, I'll jump forward. My dad had a lot of jazz records. I remember we had a 7-inch of Take 5. And we had the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper on cassette. I can remember a few records, but also probably the record that first got me into writing songs that we had at home was Simon and Garfunkel's Greatest Hits and Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I got a chords book for those and learned the chords. And that's what probably started me playing guitar and writing songs.
Did you ever take guitar lessons? Or was this kind of more self-taught?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
No, it's just, I don't think that's that uncommon, really.
Yeah, right. Wendy, give us a little bit about your background and how music came into your life.
I mean, it's always been there as far as I remember. I think it could be a false memory, but I think I remember seeing the Beatles, All You Need Is Love. They did the live thing of it in 1967, but I would have been 2, so maybe I don't remember it. But I just, in my brain, I think maybe I remember watching that. But yeah, we have music playing all the time in our house. It was largely Elton John, so I'm a huge Elton John fan because of that, but lots of other stuff. But like Simon, we didn't have that many actual records, but we used to have lots of taped records that we taped from other people. So there's a large cassette library. So I would have my little cassette player and go in my room, and I think there were 3 or 4 Beatles albums that we had on cassette. I had Help, Sgt. Pepper, Abbey Road. I think I listened to those round and round an awful lot. But I was just, into pop music. I mean, as I said earlier, this was my first record that I remember owning that was kind of mine, which is Donny Osmond's. Because I was in love with Donny, of course. And then a bit later on, this was the first album that I remember using my own money to buy, which is, who knew John Travolta had an album, right? Sandy by John Travolta. So it was pop music, and I was really into Bay City Rollers. I had the tartan around the bottom of, I don't know if they made it to America, but I had the tartan around the bottom of my jeans, and just basically pop music.
Cut to a few years later, the first time I went round to Wendy's house, she was playing bass along to Sound Effects by The Jam. So
there you go. There you go.
But then I did play guitar. I played, there was a guitar group at school, infant school, junior school,
okay.
Might have been infant school. And then I also had piano lessons when I was younger, and violin lessons.
And violin, you said?
Yeah.
Do you have right now, or while you were growing up, did you have any other hobbies, other pursuits, other than music that you were really interested in? Either one of you.
No, I don't. I just reading. I mean, I love books, reading books and watching telly. Reading books and watching telly. That were my main things. But no, not into anything else really. Just music. What about you? Oh, football.
Me now? Well, what do I do now?
No,
90% of the time. No, when I was young, I was probably So when I was probably as a boy up to age 14, football was all I was interested in. Music. It was at that age of like 13, 14 that music started to become a bit more important. It became, the playground. Some kids were into some music, some kids were into other music. And I remember once we got to 15 and we had a youth club room on Thursday lunchtimes where we could play records, and they had to split up the two gangs of kids because there was the the rude boys who wanted to play the specials, etc. And then there was the heavies. This is what I was 15, who wanted to play Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath or Scorpions. And I'm afraid I was in the heavies at that point for a short while, even though I loved the jam. But no, I'm also massively into fishing.
Oh,
That would surprise you.
Really? Like what kind of fishing? Like fly fishing?
When I was about 12, I started fishing, and but now I fish in the sea. Really, from in off Brighton and Seaford, from the beach, late at night sometimes. And
okay, Simon, I'm going to ask you a very silly question then. How are fishing and creating music similar? What pleasures
attention
do you
to detail.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Like everything. Yeah. You have to refine your techniques and choose your bait and your words carefully and put them just in the right place, and you will succeed. Well,
deep sea fishing and I are not friends. Sorry. I can't handle that turbulence. No thanks.
No, I don't go on boats.
Wendy, do you go out with him?
No, I don't eat them either. So yeah, that's where I like that.
Tell us a little bit about, just real quickly, the formation of Popguns. Whoever wants to answer that.
So our infancy was out in. I studied in 1985-6 in France at university for a year. A city called Nantes, and Pat was out there with me, the bass player in the Popguns, and that was just in the infancy of the C86 scene, of course. And there was a kind of philosophy of popism around getting back to melodies and simple, unambiguous lyrics and simple songs with strong melodies, and which had been a kind of. It had been made to feel a little bit worthless, I think, with the rise of, art rock and things, and a lot of bands wanted. It came out of punk a bit as well. The idea that we can make simple, great melodic pop music that is just as good with, and there were songs like the Altered Images. What's the song? See Those Eyes and I Could Be Happy. Blondie songs that were really pop songs, but they were still credible because they were honest and true. And so that was the thing. The Jesus and Mary Chain were coming out, who had a bit of that about them, kind of melody with noise. And so we started messing about, making our own tunes. And when we got back to Brighton the next year, we decided to start a band and got other people involved. We had a singer who Jenny, who joined us for a while, but then Wendy came around. Wendy was somebody I knew. Hey, somebody I used to know. Yeah. So we caught up, and I said, "Hey, I've got some songs. You want to?"
But Greg, so Simon and I met at sixth form when we were 17 because we grew up in the same area, and Greg was in the year above us at sixth form, and we didn't really like each other, did we? At sixth form, I don't think.
It's all coming out now.
And then, but then Greg was at Sussex Uni when Pat and Simon were there. So I don't know how you became friends with Greg again, didn't you? You came and lived in a house that you were living in, and then so Greg started playing guitar with them. So I was the last. Well, yeah, I was the last to join of the original four, and we used to just play with a tape machine thing, didn't we, for drum?
Yeah.
Just at first, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, we found out Wendy could sing. And they're like, oh, that's handy. And right.
And do a damn good job of it. So, Wendy, when you were growing up, when did you start noticing your wonderful vocal abilities?
I don't think I ever thought it was wonderful, but I knew I could sing in tune and I liked singing, so I just did. I mean, unfortunately, my school, my secondary school that I went to was a new school, and I was only the second year in the school, so there were only 2 years of school, so there wasn't really an established music department or anything, which is a shame. But there was a little choir, and I used to sing at concerts and play, some of the music concerts at school. But I just used to really sing on my own in my bedroom most of the time with my guitar.
We have a question here. Actually, we have some comments. I'm just going to read. Andrew says, it's so good to have the Popguns still releasing new stuff. This EP might be the best stuff since they reformed. Looking forward to Liverpool. Zainab, I hope I'm pronouncing your name.
Zainab, yeah.
Zainab, she says, City and Bank inventing so people could stash the compensation they got for giving up their slaves. Same with Industrial Revolution. Definitely Dirty London. Ask David
Olusodi, yeah, he's got a new series out on iPlayer which we need to watch, all about the history of Britain. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The Jam sound effects saved up for weeks.
Hi Zainab. I don't know if you can see that. That's Jam sound effects.
There it is. And then Mark says, when writing a song, here's a question for you. When writing a song, when do you decide if it's a Popgun song or if it's perhaps something for the perfect English weather? So who would like to answer that?
Yeah, good question.
Thank you, Mark.
I suppose the more plaintive, if it's to the right in the rock spectrum, then it goes into the Popguns, basically. Or if I like the guitar part too much, to give it to the Popguns and get it changed.
The more epic songs are Popguns ones, aren't they?
Yeah, it's stuff that's more lightweight, quieter stuff goes in the perfect English weather bucket, typically.
I want to know.
Partly it was to do with too many songs, actually, and it takes more time with the band to record them. So I think the first Perfect English Weather album, I've got all these songs left, and we're never going to record them otherwise. So it's quicker just for me and Wendy to go and do them together.
Yeah. Simon, are you extremely? You mentioned in fishing attention to detail. Are you overly meticulous? Can you just spend hours and hours and hours going fine, the fine-tooth comb, to the point where like, oh, I just can't do anymore? Like, what's your kind of approach to that?
Yeah, I think I do too much in the band. Definitely, I ended up having to do the mixing on a couple of songs on the EP, and I did about 50 mixes of each one before I thought it was okay, and then did another 50 after we got one that was okay, trying to make it better. So,
but in terms of songwriting,
in terms of songwriting, no, I hate bad lyrics, and then I'm not saying none of them don't ever get through, but like something like Caesar probably took 3 years to get the third line of the second verse right. Wow.
So I'm hearing almost like a Stanley Kubrick approach to music.
Yeah, I don't think that's unusual with bands.
Okay.
Bands are so slow to release music these days, aren't they? I mean, look at like you look at the best albums of 1979, and there's like 2 David Bowie albums, like 1975, 2 Queen albums. Like the bands and the Jam would release like 5 albums in 4 years, and these days it takes them like 5 years to record an album. It seems. I don't know why that is, but I'm saying it's not unusual for bands to take that long. I think if I was full time doing this, we could do 1 a year easily, but that's certainly write more than 12 songs a year. But
right, unless you're the band called Guided by Voices.
Or,
they release an album, like 2 albums a year. It's pretty incredible. I want to know, what sacrifices have you made in your lives in just being full-time musicians?
We have never been full-time musicians.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen our Spotify streams? It would be impossible.
Do
you feel like you've had to make some sacrifices along the way?
I think, well, when we used to use our holiday when we first time round with the band, we used all our holiday going on lots of gigs. But I don't know if that's much of a sacrifice, because it's what we wanted to do with our holiday.
I don't ever feel like I wish I'd done something else. I mean, it's obviously you have to choose what to do in life, and especially in our 20s, we were, as I say, we're playing 60 gigs a year and full-time job. It doesn't give you much time to do much else, but you make that choice. And then we stopped in 1995, probably because of that. And Wendy and I had children and lived a different life for 15 years or whatever, because it would have been too much. But then when you get a bit more time in your hands later on.
I want to segue, since you just mentioned that word gigs, I want to talk about gigging and concerts, performing live. What is that experience like for you? And we can obviously, I want you to talk about some upcoming shows that you have. Do you enjoy touring still?
Yeah, I love playing gigs.
Yeah, I love playing gigs. That's not the same as touring.
Oh yeah.
I
like being.
You always think. Yeah, I'm just saying it's not some. You'll hear some bands that say, touring, they hate it. It's only the 2 hours that they're playing that's enjoyable. Right. That isn't the case with us, I don't think, and not for me. But, yeah, when you play a gig, it always feels like, yeah, that was worth it, wasn't it? That's why we do it. But there's a lot of times leading up to it, all the work that's required, that you think, oh, is it really worth it?
Wendy, I was in doing my homework, I was watching some stuff on YouTube, and your performance, you seem very comfortable on stage. Is that something that has always been a part of you, or is that something you've learned over time in terms of just self-confidence? And how do you handle if you get any stage fright?
I think when we started out, I just copied Morrissey. That was my boy. I'm only confident because if I know the songs really well, the only time I really get nervous is if we're playing a new song and I'm not sure that I know the words, or if I'm feeling that my voice is maybe on the days, not quite up to standard, then I might be a bit nervous. But no, I don't know why, because I'm not really very confident. I think loads of people say this, don't they? They're quite shy, unconfident people off the stage, but on the stage, because I know that I can sing, and I'm confident that the boys going to do a good job around me, and the crowd is there expectant, and they sort of giving you the love, and so that just buoys you up. And
what is that? How much time and effort goes into creating the set list for a show?
Well, we say, who wants to do the set list? So if someone says, I'll do it. No, we've had to think about it a bit more, only because Ken is our new drummer, so he doesn't know all of the old songs. So we have had to pick and choose ones, and we just try to play a variety, Derry, from our back catalogue, from the different albums.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few songs that inevitably you have to play and want to play. Who wouldn't want to play the songs that people like most?
Right.
But we do mix it up a lot. There might be, I don't know, 6 or 7 songs that we play almost every gig, and then the other 7 or 8 will change over time. Sometimes we do a gig like we re-released the Love Junkie album from 1995. We re-released it about 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And we did a gig where we played that whole album, like bands do. So that's always fun to do that. Or we played Snog album once. And
with the songs, with the older, for me personally, the older songs, some of them, they're quite belty and high, especially Someone You Love. And I always have to brace myself a little bit for that one. So I probably prefer, in some ways, singing the more recent songs, because I don't know why, we just used to pitch them, the key just used to be, or the melodies used to be right up there, really belty. So I do have to kind of, I have to really try not to shout them, otherwise I would damage my voice doing that. So.
When in creating the set list, do you put a lot of thought process into building the energy of the room?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that.
Well, usually we have banger, 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 then slowly, then banger, 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 banger. I do, but then you realise it doesn't really matter. You just play some songs,
but we're not like, because I don't know if you know Black Midi. They're as kind of alt rock. I don't know how they describe themselves. They're quite experimental, and I think the last tour that they did, they basically didn't have a set list, and they would just decide what they were going to play. I mean, I don't think we'd be able to do that, but we need to know what we're doing. I like the idea of it, but no, we need to have a plan.
With the newer, the Popism tunes, is there a song on that EP that just was frustrating as hell? Like, we can't get this together. The composition's not right, something, arrangement, whatever it is. And then finally you broke through. Or is there anything like that with any of those 4 songs?
Yeah. So Dirty London, we did play it for about 2 years until Greg came up with his guitar line that really works. And I said, yeah, that's a strong line, Greg. We can use that. And it brought the song together, and it just wasn't quite clicking otherwise until we did that, for me anyway. And then
Red Cocoon, you spent hours
trying to I mean, let's not talk about strumming patterns and bass drum beats that trying to make it's intriguing when you're actually in a band. And it's always at the start when you don't really know what you're doing in a band. It's so much easier. And then you start, when you've been going for years, you start studying records you like and how the bass guitar works with the bass drum and what kind of bass drum pattern you need for the chorus, and then what rhythm guitar strumming pattern, and it drives you mad. So yeah, that's probably just knowing too much.
Andrew says, speaking of bangers, I hope Long Way to Fall makes the set list.
Oh.
And then what's the biggest age group following you now? Are people bringing grandchildren just about?
We do, I mean, obviously, I also
children.
Please, yeah. No, I work this won't surprise anyone. I work as a data analyst, and so I get my Spotify data now, so I could tell you exactly what our listening age group is. And it's not, I mean, it's mainly 45 to 60 age group, but it is about 20% females under 30, which is, that's not.
Yeah, because our son, when our son Thomas went to York Uni, and one of his friends was a Popguns fan, and then she didn't know that that we were his parents, so that's quite fun. There are some young people out there.
So I've never seen you live other than what I've seen on YouTube and stuff like that. What can people expect at a Popgun show?
Noise,
raw power. Yeah, we're quite a raw live. We play all the big tunes basically.
There's a reasonable amount of singing along as well. And
be prepared to sing along to Bye Bye Baby, which is and a bit of moshing to that too. It's a live favourite.
Yeah.
Off the Snog album.
Mark says, can't wait to see you in London next week. I'm bringing my wife for her first Popguns gig. My kids are big fans too. Anne says they are brilliant live. So
that's my mom.
Being in San Francisco, I don't. Have you played in San Francisco before?
We haven't. We've only played in New York.
New York. Okay.
Once.
So when are you coming to the Bay Area?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Well, as you said, the record company that put our vinyl out, or put out the most recent stuff of ours out, and this vinyl is based in Santa Barbara. So yeah.
Oh, it's in Santa Barbara. Okay.
Yeah.
We have just a few more questions here. My name is William, host of the High Art on the Edge page here, speaking with Simon Wendy from the Popguns. So if you have a question, go ahead, put it in the comments box. Are there any more, speaking of gigs, can you tell us what's coming up for you in terms of shows?
Yes. Next weekend, we are going on a mini tour, 3 dates in a row. Saturday, the 7th of October, we are in Bristol at the Thunderbolt. Then we're driving all the way out to Glasgow, Hug and Pint, to play on Sunday night, the 8th, and then down to Liverpool Monday night, the 9th, which is John Lennon's birthday, to play at Casimir Stockroom. And we should have done a Beatles cover, but we didn't do it, did we?
Well, and then we're in London on the 12th.
London on the 12th, Thursday the 12th.
So all the main trading ports of the British Empire, basically, Bristol, Glasgow, Liverpool and London.
All your favorites, Simon.
Yeah. And then
we've got a couple of weeks break, and then we're 26th, we're playing at Nottingham Chameleon.
Yeah.
And then the Friday 27th, Lewis Con Club, which is near to us. Yeah. So almost a home gig.
And then some bands that may be opening up for you?
Landy Hecht is playing with us in Lewis, who we're delighted to have. She's a young woman who's brilliant. She was in a band called the Muncie Girls, and she's a solo artist now.
Okay.
She actually put us on in Exeter a couple of years ago, which was ace. So that would be great.
Then we've got
Rocker Rosehip from the Flatmates. His band is playing with us in Charlie and the Rebellion. Charlie Tipper Rebellion. Oh God, no, I'm thinking Rebellion Extinction. That's wrong. Charlie Tipper Rebellion.
They're not Extinction Rebellion.
In Bristol. Irene and the Disappointment, a great Liverpool sort of dream pop band in Liverpool.
Don't know about
Glasgow, we don't know. Or,
no, we do.
Or Jodie and the Germs. Jodie and the Germs again in London. Yeah.
Olga says, looking forward to hearing all the new stuff live at the Con Club gig.
Yeah, that's in Lewis, just up the road from us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how big is that venue?
150 capacity.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, who did we see there? We saw an Elvis tribute band there last week. Yeah. That's the kind of town, Lucy.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
But it was.
But also, there are some good. There's loads of good bands play there. Lots of old punk bands play there, actually.
They do.
I have two more questions here. I want you to tell the audience and me a very memorable concert you went to when you were younger or last year or whenever. Just a memorable concert.
Yeah. For me, the Jam at the Cliffs Pavilion.
Oh, that was great.
In Southend. They was like #1 in the chart, and they were doing a warm-up gig. And it was one of the days where you actually went to the venue and queued up. We queued up there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, like third in the queue, and then got to the gig an hour before the doors opened and rushed to the front of the stage and stood there for two or 3 hours before they came on. And yeah, and that was only about like an 800 capacity venue, and the Jam were a massive band at #1 in the charts at the time. So yeah.
What about for you, Wendy?
From back in the old days, I think it was probably only because I think I nearly died. I felt like I did. The Smiths at Brixton. Well, I don't know if it's Brixton Academy or Kilburn National now. But when they had the Romeo and Juliet overture music as their opening music. And as soon as that music started, I think it must have been the Queen is Dead tour, everyone just surged forward, and I just thought I was going to die. I was squished, and I had to claw my way out of it. So I remember that gig for that moment, really. But more recently, I'm a big fan of Richard Dawson, who's a very strange folk, alt, weird singer-songwriter from Newcastle. And I saw him at the Barbican, and his latest album, which is called The Ruby Chord, the opening track is 41 minutes long. So he played the whole of the Ruby Chord album, including this almost 40, they played almost all of it, like about 35-minute long song at the start. And that was amazing, yeah.
The Smiths, never saw them. Man, that was this.
Oh.
I've seen Morrissey several times. Does that count?
Yeah.
Annie actually showed up. Annie stayed the entire show.
Do you know we went to see him in Athens and he didn't come? He didn't show.
Although, yeah, that was another of my top gigs, was Morrissey at Brighton Dome, probably in 1991, which was that he had it seated stupidly, and the crowd sat down, just piled over the seats and ripped the seats out, and crushed down the front of the stage. And that was the kind of how mad a Morrissey concert was like in those days.
Oh, and I still got a ripped shirt from that gig. So yeah,
I wonder if that was for the Kill Uncle tour.
Yeah, it was the next one. It was the next one.
And that was for on the Kill Uncle tour. We went to see him in Hamburg, and I had a cassette of Popguns stuff, and handed it in to the box office with a note saying we've come over from England on the coach.
You handed it to him.
Did I hand it to him
outside the gig beforehand?
Yeah, he handed it to him, and then I put a note on saying we've come over from England on the coach. Blah 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 blah. And so in his set, he goes, I would like to say hello to, and then he sings a couple of songs, and he goes, England, Wendy, and that was amazing. I've never heard him give a shout out to anyone before, so that was actually that's probably my most memorable gig.
Very nice moment for you.
It was amazing.
So I've done a lot of these interviews with varied genres of music, but when it comes to indie pop music, it's amazing. And I wrote this in the chat, in the comment box, how effortless it all sounds. And I know it's not effortless. A lot of thinking goes in planning, and organization and experience goes into creating these songs. But with your music, it's there is that exhilarating rush. I know you probably have heard this from your fans, but it's astounding to me how these songs move from track to track in such a purposeful way, but it just makes you feel so alive. And that's what I want to wrap up with, is that visceral feeling of that pop sensation that you've done for so many years. So I just wanted to say thank you for all those little gifts there. And it's your fans obviously probably can echo those sentiments as well.
That's probably what we mean by popism.
There you go. Okay, so what is after the tour? So what is coming down the line for the Popguns? Anything else?
We've got quite a few songs, haven't we, that we haven't recorded yet? So working on those new songs, I think. Yeah,
our record company, Matinee, is demanding a new album next year. So
okay, all right, we'll keep our eyes out for that. And where? Last question: will you still be rocking in your care homes in the future?
Oh yeah.
What would you choose
in our
to
chairs,
play?
in our rocking chairs.
In your rocking chair. Love it. Wendy and Simon Pickles, thank you so much for this opportunity and this conversation, and congratulations on the new EP, POPISM. For those of you that are lucky enough and fortunate to go see them live, have a great time. I'm sure we'll hear and see on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram that experience. So yeah, thanks again, everyone. My name is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page. Big round of applause to Simon and Wendy from the Popguns. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, William.
And Simon, Wendy, if you don't mind, just for staying on for a second after I hit end stream, I just need to have you, there's something that's going to be uploaded here. So I just want to tell you all about that. And Lee says all the best for the gigs. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.
Brendan, you're right. Popguns rule. Take care, everyone. Bye, Mom.
Bye.